So last night, Rach and I went out to see Speak No Evil, which is a remake of a film from only 2 years ago, a Danish film. Now, neither of us have actually seen Speak No Evil. I've heard very mixed things about it. It's one of those films that seems to be hampered by the fact it's so frustrating to watch. It has an actual point, it has actual social commentary, but because that comes kind of later on in the film and what happens in the film, in the build up, it's very frustrating for a lot of people, so it was hard for a lot of people to really get into it. So basically, we were going into this film, with completely blank minds, no idea what this is going to be like. We'd seen the trailer a few times in previous cinema trips, and I have to say, I really liked this film. I thought this was great. It's This might sound kind of weird, but for me, one of the reasons it succeeds so well as a horror film is it's not trying to be a horror film. It doesn't feel like every single scene is building up to a scare. It doesn't feel like it has to, have that escalating music all the time building up to some big frightening moment. Most of the film is just the lead characters, the antagonists and the protagonists, just in conversation with each other. This film does have important points about like human nature and human behavior, actual points to make. For example, the film is mostly about how as human beings, as a society, we're often over polite towards other people. Like if someone asks us to do something, asks us if we want to do something, a lot of the time we'll say yes for fear of rocking the boat. And that's kind of what this film was getting at. It does have that, I guess, what you call frustrating element that the original apparently had, where the protagonists are in a situation and you say to yourself, you need to get out of there now. Like all of the warning signs, all of the red flags are there, you just need to leave. But I think this film is very, very good at explaining and justifying why they wouldn't leave there. The main reason for that is, I would say, James McAvoy. He is by far the acting standout in this film. Overall, the acting is very good from everybody in this film, but McAvoy is by far the best. It really feels like he's channeling that villain persona he had in Split, where you see him like very big, very buff with that kind of manic smile on his face. That's Hello again, Luna. That's what makes McAvoy so compelling and so convincing as a villain, in that he's so able to just kind of go back and forth, oscillate back and forth between being incredibly charming and incredibly terrifying. Like there'll be a scene where the characters are like, "I'm really weirded out by this guy. He's really freaking me out. He's what you'd say too much." It's all done like through his gestures, through his facial expressions. He's always like slapping the male protagonist on the back and he's always getting very close to him. And I like how they cast the differences between them, because McAvoy is like very, very strong and built and the other guy isn't at all. So it provides a great physical contrast there. And you can see why he would be intimidated by this guy. But then again, McAvoy is also very charming and he's very funny and he's just very, very nice and welcoming and accommodating. But that's kind of where the attention comes from, because you want these protagonists to get away, but you can understand also why they're staying there. Something I thought was very unique about this film, something I didn't kind of pick up on until maybe the halfway point, but I very much appreciated it. This film has almost no score at all. Any music in the film is diegetic, so it's coming from like car radios or from TVs, things like that. The film is done pretty much with no score at all, and that really adds to the tension, because there's scenes where the characters are sitting there talking, or there's maybe a silence that falls over them, and rather than having music in the background, you just get the sounds of nature. You get no sounds at all, and it's great. It makes it feel much more uncomfortable, because this film takes place in like the English West Country, kind of a bit out from civilization, a bit out from any major towns. So you don't really see anybody else there. So it being silent, it being very ambient, it makes a lot of sense. I understand that the climax is different and the way the film ends is completely different. I'm not going to get into it because of spoilers, but I did really like the way they did the climax in this film, how the film is great at foreshadowing certain items and certain objects. Like you see things are referenced, and you realize, yeah, they're going to come into play later, and it always really pays off very well. It's a very brutal and bloody climax as well, but it's just very, very enjoyable and very satisfying to watch. It feels like the catharsis is really there, and I like the kind of resolution, how it is kind of ambiguous, but it's still satisfying at the same time. I would be interested in seeing the Danish one from a few years ago, but as for this one, for a cinematic experience, this was great. I very much enjoyed this. You feel kind of glued to the screen the whole time, because you're never sure what's going to happen, because it's so unpredictable and because McAvoy is so intimidating. You never know which way it's going to go. There are frustrating moments. There are, why would you do this? why can't you do this? You need to get away. You need to do such and such. But a lot of it is those films where people are in a panic and they do stupid things and they make mistakes, they make errors. So it does kind of make a bit more sense there. But overall, I thought this was great. I very much enjoyed seeing this. McAvoy is fantastic. The whole cast do a really good job. It's very subtle, it's very underplayed. It's not in any hurry. It does build up tension quite slowly. And by the time it gets to the end, it very much pays off. I like the social commentary as well. The message is really good. If you can stick with the film, if you can not give up on it because you're very frustrated, which I totally understand, but if you can stick with it, then it does build up to a very satisfying ending. So those are my thoughts on Speak No Evil. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments, and I will see you next time.